Hello, everybody. This is JJ Hardy with Victory Leadership Coaching, and I am here with another guest. You guys see me run my mouth on here all the time. I just love that I'm able to showcase all these other wonderful people on here. But today I'm with Michael Humel, and we're actually going to talk about leadership styles. But, we'll talk about leadership styles after this wonderful human being gets to introduce himself to you guys. So, Michael, you want to give an introduction to my audience real quick?
My name is Michael Hummel. I have a business called Wheels and Warriors. It's a copywriting business and a speaking business. My mission in life is to end the judgment and assumptions surrounding disability. I want to change the way people think about, interact with, and perceive disabled people, and bring disabled and able-bodied people together. And that's what I try to do.
That's wonderful. So, what are some ways other than speaking that you advocate for these sort of things, if you don't mind me asking?
That's fine. I try to. Education is key. Like you, try to talk about etiquette and like what disabled people want or what they need. Like oftentimes people will see someone who's disabled, and it's happened to me tons of times. Before I was with my wife, I would be out alone, and someone would come up to me and start pushing me, like they thought I needed help. And for me, I'm a personal space issue kind of guy. If you don't know me, don't touch me, or at least ask. And also, there's been times when I've stopped my wheelchair because I didn't want them to push me, and then they'll get mad at me for not accepting their help. So those are two things that are usually important as far as disabled people are concerned. And I just talk about education as far as like ramps, accessibility. Oftentimes I'll go to an office space and it won't be accessible, and there'll be things in the way. I'll have to move things, and it won't be really accessible for me. So right away when that happens, it makes me feel like I'm segregated and I'm not wanted there. And it makes me feel just like I want to get out of there, even if I have to be there. So what I talk about is just mostly education and just trying to see where we're coming from and what we need, because most of the time, all the time, all we want is for people to treat us like everyone else. And people don't get that. And because I think they think like, oh, he needs help because he's in a wheelchair or he's on crutches, and that's where they go instead of looking at it from a different angle. So I think education and etiquette are the two biggest things.
So that's interesting. So what you're saying is most times, and I know you do a regular live stream on Instagram to talk about these things. And anybody who is watching this on social media, look down below. He's Wheels and Warriors on Instagram with a hashtag between all the words, and Wheels and Warriors on Facebook as well. But I know he does a live stream and he talks about this stuff. So Michael, when you do these live streams, do you interview just other disabled people, or do you also interview both audiences alike to try to get their point of view and bring awareness to it?
I have two shows. One I do is Power and Festibilities with my buddy Nick, and it's just basically us just taking a subject and talking about it for like 30 minutes to an hour. And then I have another show called Empowering Discussions with a Disabled Man, which you've been on, and that one I don't ever interview a disabled person.
Oh,
I try to take only able-bodied people, because the way I do it is I have them come on. I have them ask me any questions about disability that they want. And then I do that because I want to educate them and their audience on disability, because oftentimes people won't be given the chance to ask questions, or they will not feel like they should ask questions, so they won't do it. And I honestly 100% believe the more we have conversations and questions about disability and answer questions, the less of that divide we have, or the more education we'll have, and the closer we will be to lessening the judgment and assumptions that we have about disability. So that's the way I do it. I have them ask me questions, and then I ask them questions.
Okay. And so if somebody wanted to be a guest on your show, would they just reach out to you at that Instagram handle?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Well, he's obviously a leader of industry, people. Leaders are visionaries. Leaders are people that they're trying to disrupt something out in either the workforce or in the economy. That, they're talking about subjects and trying to make change for things that need to be brought up and need to be changed. And I think it's wonderful that you're doing that. When you think of somebody who is an underserved population, although everybody is trying to help people that have disabilities, you don't really understand, maybe unless you've had surgery or something like that, and for a short amount of time you were stuck in a wheelchair or had to take crutches. You don't really understand the mind of somebody who's disabled. So it's very important to bring these things up. And by the way, they're difficult topics. So I'm sure you get some people that probably feel rather uncomfortable on your show. But
yeah, there's been people that struggled to find questions or felt bad about asking me the questions. And the way I am is just ask me anything. I don't care. Questions. I love questions because the more questions you ask of me, it's just making sure that it's just letting me know that you want to know. And that's what I want to do I want to let people know and educate people. And I will say anything that you want to know. And oftentimes I've met people who are disabled who don't like questions of it. So that's where I differ in my mission and my message. A lot of times people who are disabled think of it as impolite to ask questions. The way I look at it is, as long as you're nice about it, as long as you may I ask you questions, after that, go at it. Just have at it. Just do whatever you got to do.
People don't know what they don't know.
Exactly.
Well, let's go ahead and jump right into leadership styles here. So I talked to you a little bit before we started the call, and you had mentioned that you feel like you're a mix between a couple of leadership styles, and I'll go over a list without describing every single one after you're done telling us that. But I think it's interesting the way you describe that. Can you share with the audience here, what you think your leadership style is?
I would say I'm a mix between servant and democratic, and a little bit of transformational. I think I try to look at it from a way of taking the ego out of it as much as possible. The way I look at it is, yes, I'm the boss. If I'm the boss of a company, or I'm spearheading a project, it's my face, and yes, everything falls downhill onto me. But at the same time, I'm whatever idea wins that's the most important thing. The mission is the boss, not me. If your idea is better than mine, awesome. Like I told you, before, I heard a quote from Ted Nugent 30 years ago in a music documentary, and he said, he had been the boss of most of his music projects, and he was in this band called the Damn Yankees in the early 90s, and he was arguing with them, and he said to them, "You have to beat me in the argument." And I took that to heart, because that's the way business should be. If you have to stand up for yourself and stand up for your idea and stand up for what you think the mission needs, and then go at it. and whatever wins wins, and if right or wrong, and if you're wrong and it goes downhill and blows up, and then so be it. But you have to have fire in your belly, and your ideas, and you have to work hard for what you think the mission needs.
I agree with that. Now, I'm obviously a servant leader,
Mm-hmm.
and because of my military background, I also do a little bit of transactional as well, because even part of the NCO creed is I believe in being fair and impartial, and giving rewards and punishment. So being fair and impartial with everything that I do with my people, which is important. I
Yeah.
don't believe in punishment necessarily, but sometimes it's warranted when you exhaust the whole coaching and everything else out of it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's important. Some other leadership styles that are out there, and I had to pull up a list because I only really keep 2 or 3 in mind usually when I'm having my discussions. But there's autocratic, and that's your typical micromanager. It's somebody who feels like they need to be in charge and making all of the decisions, which,
I don't like that one.
yeah, yuck.
Well, that'll if you're in a business where that happens, that'll turn off your workers so fast.
Oh, well. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Not only will it turn them off, but you, especially if you have a larger organization, you're going to lose your doggone mind,
Yeah.
because you're going to go straight to thinking, I do everyone's work for them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And my counter statement to that is, yeah, because you chose to.
Yeah. Come on.
And
Yeah.
that makes it really, really hard. And then there's democratic, and that's just where decision making is shared, usually between a couple of people. That's not really spread out necessarily in an organization. Laissez-faire, which is literally going in the opposite direction,
Yeah.
where people just kind of take a step so far back where they are not really participating. They just kind of let their employees run the business, which there are some businesses that would work that way, but my belief is there has to be a certain sense of ownership. So
Right.
there needs to be some sort of a leadership chain in an organization.
Yeah, definitely.
Transformational, which you mentioned, and this one is just it's inspirational leadership. It inspires. It's leadership that inspires and motivates their teams to exceed expectations while fostering professional and personal growth. And there are levels with this one. So transformational is a very good leadership style. There's nothing wrong with that. I would say that no matter what leadership style you have, it shouldn't be just stuck on one. So if
Yeah.
you study one that you like, well, you're kind of closing yourself off, because if you can just be genuine, be who you are, and keep a mind on the people and not yourself, which
Yeah.
is commonly a bigger problem. People have so much ego, as you mentioned, where they just get so involved in wanting to do the right thing all the time. And by the way, it's not because they have to be right. It's because they're afraid of being wrong, usually, that they just take charge. And
Mm-hmm.
so that transformational is good. Transactional is also pretty good. That's actually kind of what the military uses.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, people develop their sub styles within that, but
Yeah.
that one is built on a system where you are motivating people through rewards and punishment. Servant leadership is the one that I like, where you're always keeping other people in mind and you're doing the best thing for others. And I'm going to be honest with you, I think that one's the best, because if you're always looking to make everyone else's lives better around you, whether it's in your family or in business, you're gonna be looking out for your seniors, your peers,
Yeah.
and your subordinates. and honestly speaking, everybody serves everybody else anyway. I mean, every job serves the organization, which means everybody serves everybody.
Yeah.
So if you look at your employees that work below you as, what am I doing to help them understand what they're supposed to be doing every day, and kind of making them better people in the process,
Yeah.
and doing the same thing for your peers and your seniors, you're probably going to be looked at as a little bit more than just a good worker. You're probably going to be looked at as an authority.
I love the servant leader one too. And there's another quote that I'll share with you that I've been saying for years.
Please.
When everybody helps everybody, everybody wins.
I love that, because it's so true.
Yeah.
The only real loss, and I've always said this, is when somebody gets hurt or discluded.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, a question for you:
Yes.
as far as the reward and punishment sense of style of leadership, do you think that when you get punished, it automatically turns a person off, or what do you think can help mitigate that to get them closer to your sense of thinking or what you want to accomplish?
That is a good question. So that starts long before that particular punishment takes place. If you're looked at as that person who is constantly trying to take care of others all the time and keeping them in mind above yourself, then, if and when punishment happens, because it does happen, that you can't just show up late for a week in a row and not have anything happen, or, miss work more than a certain amount of times per month, or constantly leave early, or whatever the case, or, screw up one project after another, even after you've been coached and coached and coached and coached.
Yeah.
There has to be some recourse. You're not a top performer if you're performing at the bottom.
Yeah.
So there has to be some recourse there. But, if you're a good servant leader, and this is through experience. I wasn't always great at this. This was a skill that had to be developed, because I always cared, but I always modeled after the leaders that I served with before me and tried to do my very best based off of that. But they typically know when there's a punishment coming long before it ever comes out of my mouth.
Okay.
It's a lot of expectation management.
Yeah.
So if you have regular conversations about what's going right and what's going wrong,
yeah,
then when it gets to that point where it's so wrong that you got to smack somebody's wrist, they're going to be like, all right, Michael, I know what you want to talk about.
Yeah. There's hints you can make, tones you can use, to just, precursor to what's coming.
But it's more than the precursor. It's the making sure that, there are steps leading up to that. I believe in teaching, coaching, and mentoring. And if you're exhausting that process with a person, and they're not getting any better, you've already probably had the conversation that, we've been doing this for a while. If it gets much worse, or if we can't make improvement, then you're going to have a reduction in pay, or unfortunately, we're going to have to determine whether or not this job is right for you anymore, or we're going to have to determine, whether you need to take a lower position or something. And, if you constantly have conversations around performance, and you're having conversations around their showing up to work late or leaving early all the time, then when it comes time to put pen to paper and actually have to make an administrative punishment for something, then they know. They knew last week that you were giving them all the opportunities in the world.
Yeah.
Because you told them. If you keep your mouth shut on these things, well, that's when you piss people off. Because
Yeah, because it comes out of left field, and you're like, you know,
Gosh, I am really, really big on expectation management, not only at work, but at home, because nobody likes being caught off guard.
yeah,
And that's why I believe in performance reviews and regular counseling statements and stuff like that at work, because when you're having regular conversations around whether it's through your day to day, or a monthly or quarterly or whatever you do, then they know where they stand
yeah,
all the time, all the time. There's not one moment, except for maybe halfway through a month, if you do monthly counseling statements or performance reviews, or maybe halfway through the quarter, where they're like, oh crap, sometimes I start screwing up a little bit and I'm not sure if anybody else is noticing. Well, if it's near my I'm smacking my mic around. But typically, it takes more than those regular scheduled times that you talk to people.
yeah,
If you're in a business where it's retail, or even if it's a business where you have employees that work online, it doesn't really matter. You have to make it a point to go around the room. And if that's in a physical room, then so be it. You have questions not about work. You have questions about, how are they doing? How's the kid? How are the kids? How's the dog? How's the fish? How's the wife? Whatever. But, after that's all done, you ask a very simple question. What can I do to support you in your role?
yeah,
And then you follow it up with, is there anything you're having difficulty with? If they say anything or not, if you know that there's something that they're struggling in, that is a perfect time to bring it up.
yeah,
But you always have those conversations. And if it's in a digital room or digital space, then whether it's picking up one of these things and just calling somebody on the phone and doing a daily or biweekly check-in,
mm-hmm,
do it.
yeah,
Or if it's hopping on a quick 15-20 minute call, do it. It's worth it. If you want to create influence with your people, they have to know you're there and they have to know you care.
yeah,
Otherwise, you just lost all credibility, because there's nothing worse when you're working in a company than feeling like you're constantly on an island and not knowing where you stand.
yeah, yeah. I get that. Whenever I've been in it's just too many chiefs and not enough.
People on the ground level doing the
Yeah,
work.
yeah. It's,
Yep.
too many bosses and
Yep.
not enough organization to where, like, if you are working for someone and you think that you don't matter and you think that they don't know your name, that's not a good thing. It's not
No.
a good place to be.
Well, let's talk about how you make that a culture. It's because we have all these leadership styles, and I'm glad I stopped at number 7, because I was starting to get bored reading off that sheet. But have you ever heard of decentralized leadership?
I have not.
So decentralized leadership is the idea, and it's actually an organizational model where you are spreading the decision making out within the organization. So there's not one figurehead or just two figureheads or whatever in an organization making all decisions. You're spreading the responsibility and the decision making out.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, it does a number of things. It makes things more efficient, because most people, honestly speaking, have a bunch of managers and assistant managers, and they don't know how to use them.
Yeah.
That's how you use them. You trust them, and you allow them to make decisions in their own lane and take care of their own people and just report the status back after you're done. But then on top of that, you can create a culture of leadership when you do that. And that's through training, that's through regular conversation, and making sure that you have a clear mission and vision and a style that you want to promote in your company. And when you do that, you can actually mold the way that your company operates.
Mm-hmm. Not enough people know the meaning of the word delegation.
They don't sometimes. Delegation and trust, those are kind of hand in hand. And,
Definitely.
that usually they don't come together because there's fear hovering over the top. Well, if I release a little bit of this decision making over to this person, or if I let this person make a decision or give them this responsibility, then it's going to be screwed up because it's not going to get done the way that I would do it.
Yeah.
Oops. Well, who cares about how you would do it?
Mm-hmm.
The wonderful thing about bringing tons of people together and sharing ideas and collaborating is that everyone has a different point of view and people get stuff done differently.
Yeah.
Share how you would do it, but you'll see magic happen when you let people execute things their way.
Yeah, you can share your mission, what you need. You can share the end goal, but allow people to work in a way that gets them to where they need to be, the way they need to do it. And
Yes.
if you're not okay with that, let them know, and correct it from there. But at least in the beginning, you have to give people some rope, a little bit at least.
Yep. You don't necessarily want them to hang themselves, but some people do it anyway.
Yeah.
and you could give them no rope and they still hang themselves. I don't really know how that works, but that happens too. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. But when you trust other people, it takes the responsibility off you and it makes them feel empowered.
Yes.
And when you don't feel empowered, what's the opposite of that?
Weak.
You feel weak. You feel like you're there, but nobody cares about you and nobody trusts you.
Yeah.
So why are you there?
Yeah.
Well, there's another place to work right down the street. Maybe they'll care about me. I'm going to go over there.
Yeah.
That's what's happening in today's market, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you feel weak and alone if you're not empowered and strong.
Yep. I always use the pencil conversation. If you have one pencil and you bend it, it's going to snap. I'm not going to break this because I might use this pencil tomorrow. But but if you put 2 or 3 of them together, it's really, really hard to even bend it, let alone break it. So that I'm only saying that to say that you're always stronger when you can build a team rather than trying to do everything yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, we're coming up on almost 28 minutes here. I want to give you an opportunity here to maybe pass a message on to the audience. Is there anything that you would like to say? Whether it's a plug for your business, maybe an event you have coming up, or just a special message that you might have for a lot of the business owners and HR people in my audience.
Okay. My business is I'm a freelance copywriter. I write for mobility aids. That's my specialty. For businesses, the message I would give is just if you have a brick and mortar business, try to do what you can to make it accessible. Don't create barriers that don't need to be there. And number 2, try to have it easier between your employers and employees and customers who might be disabled. Just have empathy, have respect, don't assume, don't judge, and if you're going to ask questions, just be polite first and just open up the doors to that conversation. But what I try to do is write to make mobility aids more shown to be more available and let them know what there is available out there, so that we can create a world that is more mobile for people that have issues that make it hard for them to get out and get around and go from point A to point B. So just those are the main things I wanted to talk about.
Love it, my friend. And by the way, Vic is over there talking to us. He says 2 big dogs. He said, "What up, Michael?"
I am Wheels and Warriors on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm also on LinkedIn.
And you can also see his information here below. But when I publish this on Spotify and all those other places, you're not necessarily going to see that. So it's at wheels underscore n underscore warriors on Instagram. And then if you look up Wheels and Warriors on Facebook, you'll find them there.
Yeah.
Michael, it's been wonderful having you as a guest. I hope we can do this again sometimes. I'm really interested to see where your business goes. Otherwise, I'm going to say the same thing I say on every single one of these live streams. If you see this on social media, which you will, if you're watching this and got this far, you've already seen it. But like it, subscribe to it, share it, but more importantly, put a comment below and keep the conversation going. There are some good things that we talked about here that need to be talked about more than just with me and Michael here. And if you feel your audience can benefit by having this same sort of conversation, then comment on it and share it with your audience.
Thank you, man.
Both of our crazy looking mugs can be spread all over the internet for all I care. Let's do it. All right, team. We'll talk to y'all later, and thank you for tuning in.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yep.